Are we both in your model the same subtype or different? I forgot.
We're different subtypes. So in my model, I have solid Ni, and then you have a solid Se, but we both have solid Te. So that means that you should have a better sensory memory than I do. Um, it also means that the patterns would seem more chaotic to you than they do to me.
Oh, interesting. Does that also make it a little bit more like, well, I am more flamboyant the way I dress, things like that. Like you, like I've said, you're more stoic. I don't know if it has to do with the solid Ni versus Se.
That might be true. I don't
Okay.
I don't know enough because they're tendencies, right?
Hmm.
So so that you have a better sensory memory isn't a tendency. That will always happen if you have a solid SE in comparison to the same type of a different subtype, right? But when it comes to being more social, um, I don't know. There's probably a tendency of people with solid T and solid N being more confrontational when it comes to arguments. As for being an INTJ makes you smart, that isn't inherently true. That's the same as saying being a being an ENFJ makes you good at being social. It's like, no, it doesn't. It can. There's definitely a crossover, but it doesn't mean that inherently. Or like a ESTP is inherently like strong. Like that's not true. They tend to be very good at being strong, but that doesn't mean they have to be.
You're talking like physically strong?
Oh, I was referencing powerlifters because I'm interested in the sport, and then a lot of the elite powerlifters seem to be like like STs.
I think there's like some of the memes about them, they always have like the ESTP is like the dude with the shades and like all jacked. So that's, I
Mm,
guess that is the SP temperament might be in there as well. Okay. So you
because
explained this last time, but I can you clarify it again what you mean? Like it's like frequency versus intensity.
yeah, sure. Okay. So imagine that you have four buckets, and with the first bucket you can fill it up right to the top, and then with the second one there's like you can fill it halfway, and it gets less every time, right? So with your first bucket is like the amount, like that's your first function and the one that you can use the most of before it gets tired, and then it decreases in frequency of use.
I'm super excited for you guys to write this out in a book or something where like I can read it and get it because I feel like there's a lot to it, but even I'm not conceptually getting it. What is your timeline for that? When is that coming out?
We're working on a website at the moment, and that will take probably ages. So,
Okay. Okay. Like I have read a number of it's like business entrepreneurship self-help books,
hmm.
and 99% are written by TE users. They
Okay,
are. They're just like
okay,
plan like sort of it's not really envisioning anymore. It's just plan out what you want, go do it. As if like
okay.
everyone has that capacity to just, oh, as long as I write it down and do it and go do it and take action, like it's all oriented towards TE use. But like if you don't understand type, like you can't just tell certain types to just go do it. Maybe for a week they can do it, but it doesn't, their capacity is limited to do it in the same way than ENTJ. Like Tony Robbins is a classic ENTJ. It's a 600-page book. All his books are long about just positive thinking, action, and like laser focus. Well, that's like ENTJ, INTJ in my mind. Um, so we're not even helping like 90% of the population by writing these books. But yes, we all consume that. Can you talk about
I
like that?
I I personally think his books are garbage. I know which
Sure.
content is because
I've read his book just to read one of his books just to do it.
it's like they're good for him probably, and then the stats are like actually useful because they're solid. They're solidly done, and I'm not dissing him for that because that's properly done. But when it comes to like your mentality, it's like you're gonna have to have FI for that to be useful. So I was like, okay, it's all right for FI users, and then maybe not if you have any. I don't know. I assume it wouldn't be as useful.
Because of the motivation, inspiration for just doing things.
Well, I think because if you have any, then you're gonna probably be wanna. It's probably gonna be in your best interest to want to observe a lot of different patterns play out in order for you to calibrate which ones you want to engage in.
Mm.
if it's high, and if it's low, then you're probably going to be relying on a different function.
Are there any of the types that you do not know personally?
Um, there's types I haven't had a lot of experience with. Like I haven't had a lot of experience with ISFPs.
I was going to say that. Yep.
Yeah, that one.
So you can tell them theoretically based on patterns of what? Like, what's your frame of reference? Books? Watching them on TV? Characters?
Oh, characters are like invalid.
No.
Like if it's a film, then also invalid because it's going to be written by uh, I don't know who. So I can't. I've got no idea. Um, uh, if it's a book and it's written by one, and then I know it's written by one, then maybe I could have a glimpse into their thought processes. Maybe if I was that smart. Um, I think Lord of the Rings was written by a ISFP. I think.
Really? Tolkien?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not certain about it, but it seems like that's true.
Okay. So if someone had like questions, like someone responds on your YouTube channel and says like, "Hey, what should I do about this? I'm an ISFP." Your frame of reference is not like you can't be like my best friend's an ISFP. I know exactly what you're going through. How do
Hmm.
you help? I mean, I know that you're not a coach per se, so I'm kind of just asking like, what are you supposed to do? Because a lot of the community is just like, oh, you do this. This is what you should do.
Okay, so I think because what will know is that they will be making emotions frequently. Because
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I also know that they're going to be physically relatively competent when it comes to their memory and their like their physical awareness as well. So that's two strengths that they have. Yeah.
And that's
Um.
across the board. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I know that that is true. What I don't know if they're flawed or solid. I don't. And okay, so from there, I'll need to like ask questions about what the issue is, because maybe it's not even something that you can resolve. Like that happens as well. Like, what if it's just a shitty relationship, and the best thing to do is break up with a person, and it's hard to admit that on an emotional level. That can happen. Like in this society at the moment, it's pretty useful to have FE in a relatively high position because people like it, and so at the moment that's useful. But in the past, it might have been like TI. Maybe people like that for philosophical reasons. I don't know. It's too hard to predict.
Okay. So this is a great question. So advice for if FE is valued right now, it's definitely valued on all aspects of politics and social media for sure. So what's an INTJ to do, or an ENTJ for that matter?
Um, I think that being right in a clever way, and I know it's obnoxious advice because it is like it is pretty hard to do advice. Therefore, it's not very good. But if you can be right in a funny way, then you'll mostly win the argument, and then people will come to your side.
So it's in a clever way, like with humor attached to it, or like sarcasm to get them to kind of see the point and be like, "Oh yeah, you're right."
Yeah, I like a bit of that. Yeah.
Okay. Instead of the like blunt, forceful way, or like with no tact.
That can work, but you have to know that you're being a bit of an asshole. Be like, yeah, I know, I'm a bit of an asshole sometimes, and that can work because people don't see you as much as the villain. Like they know that you know that this is not how you behave all the time.
Okay. You obviously know the eight function model, all that. What is the reason why I know that you've only dealt with the top four functions, or do you
Mm.
even believe in the shadow functions, things like that? What is the reason for the, I wouldn't say rejection, but just non-use of it in your model?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. So the reason I believe it works that way is because Um, I believe the functions are to perceive and make decisions based on reality. Well, as close as we can get to. That's why we have functions. And so, and so, uh, if the spectrum was both extroverted and introverted, then, um, there wouldn't be any break between your decision making and how you perceive reality. So you'd be functionally delusional. And most people are not like that. Although maybe the model extends to crazy people. Maybe that's how they get crazy sometimes. I don't know. I haven't seen evidence of that, but it might be true.
But so I guess stopping at 4, the fourth function, prevents this?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, for example, we both have FI,
Yeah.
right? And that is responsible for designing emotions in which we act from. It
Hmm.
is also used for what people refer to as empathy, or maybe sympathy. Sympathy is more appropriate. Um, so that would be for us. That would be um, pretending what other people experienced in order to then empathize with them, right? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So, but when we look at the environment, so like things external to us, um, they have a purpose to them, like a functionalistic purpose.
Okay.
Like this is for this, this is for this is for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if we had FE, then rather than looking at the functionalistic purpose, we would be looking at how things felt to us. And if we had FI and FE, then there wouldn't be a separation in like how we felt and how things felt. And you wouldn't know if you were a cop because that would feel a certain way and you would feel a certain way. So the borders of reality would be like you'd be functionally delusional.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think I get I think I get what you're saying. But I do we just not have it? Like if you're gonna end with 4, then there's just functions you don't have.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
hot take.
Um and if you like I and like I really realized this when I was talking to my best friend
Yeah.
because one was robot like an INTV
Okay.
and I was just like he just thinks in a way that I just can't. And like I got him to explain his thought process in a really detailed manner, and because there's an INTP, he could pull that off.
Hmm.
And it was just like I can understand it purely from in a conceptual way. If I try to do it, I break. I was like, maybe that's why I feel that way. Maybe I feel like I'll break because I will, and that's why I was like, maybe we only have four functions.
Actually, I think you're sort of onto something now that you've explained it like that. So you can only conceptualize, like I can understand the like you've said before, the mechanization of how you think, like what that would look like, but like
Hmm.
you can't internalize it and then do it. But
Yeah,
you could reenact in a dramatic or like if you were acting out what an INTP would do. That's as
I
far
could
as
play
you can
the
go.
I could maybe play a character or a caricature. Like I could deliberately not reference emotions, and then I could be more specific than I normally am. But it would be me pretending, and like as someone that was using uh, our system to type, somebody would know that I'm pretending because the difference between TE and TI is pretty extreme, and it's not something you can easily hide because you constantly reference it in your speech patterns.
Mm. Yeah, this is the real juicy stuff about your model that I'm really interested to see. Like, yeah, okay, I'm feeling this now. Okay. Um, damn, I had a question while you were talking that was really interesting. Oh, another thing, I think this will be something we'd end on because I think we can go a couple different directions with it. Um, the ethical use of MBTI in general prohibits hiring practices in any sort of corporate setting from hiring based on type. And I get
Okay.
that from a ethical point of view. Like you can't just say we need an ISTJ in this role, and if you don't get this on the pre-enrollment pre-employment, you're out. Um,
Yeah.
however, if you write a job description appropriately, you're going to just basically be saying you want an ISTJ. You're
Well,
not
I
going to.
think
Mm-hmm.
okay, so making it illegal seems fine because tests are stupid. At least the MBT I ones are, so that's
The
not
formal
helping
one
anyone.
for sure, yes.
Um, but I just think they would be selecting for type. Like I don't think they do it consciously. Like I like if you spoken to like an ENTJ before you knew that they were an ENTJ, and you're like, I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, and I feel like I understand what you're saying in a pretty fundamental way. I'm probably gonna hire you. Right?
Wow, that's a good question. Did I? Yes, I mean, some of I've retroactively typed good friends, and I'm like, oh, that is exactly why we got along right from the start. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because like the functions get along with each other, and so you're just going to be doing that.
You're right. But do you believe in like healthy, unhealthy types? Like, would an
Oh, for sure.
unhealthy
Yeah.
ENTJ still connect with a healthy INTJ because the functions act the same?
Okay, so the likelihood of them connecting it would be higher. Yeah.
Still, no matter what.
Like yeah, because okay, so if you put it this way, okay, so let's imagine there's an unhealthy ENTJ,
Hmm.
and they can't get along with most people because they're unhealthy, and and then they meet an INTJ, and then they've got a higher chance of being like, well, this person seems to understand me better than most people do,
Right.
and then maybe that will, um, so yeah, there's a higher likelihood because of that, but that doesn't mean it has to happen.
Okay.
Maybe it increases the chances.
I think I've met both sides of the spectrum on ENTJs that have been in a bad spot for a long time, and then ones that are very healthy. And I think the relationship that I have interpersonally is solid for either one. Same level of like we get each other.
I don't think everyone does want power.
I don't
I
think so
don't
either. No.
think that's true. I think some people want power, and I don't think that's a type thing. But then,
Hmm.
whatever the system is going to tend towards certain functions being better in the environment of the system.
Okay,
And
so
so,
that's the thesis of my. You've just came up with a thesis of my talk.
okay, so like for example, and a good example is American politics because everyone knows about it, including Australians.
Yeah.
But but there's a lot of like FE in American politics, and it's the same in Australia as well. I'm not just picking on on America, although yeah,
There's a lot there.
but there's a lot of like FE, and there's a lot of low resolution, sweeping statements about how shit works in American politics, right? And,
Hmm.
and just to clarify the point, I'm only talking about America because people know about it. I'm not saying that Australia is better.
Right.
It's equally as stupid, but with a different political system. Okay, but um, but the problem arises is that people will, because that's what people vote for. They vote for low resolution but emotionally fun, like explanations of how stuff works. But that's too simple. That's too simple. So the things that they think will happen never happen, and that's why political promises never get kept.
So they vote for FE.
Like inadvertently, yeah. Like they don't know that they are.
So they vote for FE thinking that it will turn like that they'll also have TE to do it, and then it never happens.
Or or a high TI. Like either way it would be fine, but that's not what happens.
Which one is the most sorely underutilized function in politics?
Oh, I think probably NI.
Hmm.
Because long-term thinking is just not happening. Unless you're China, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe in China it's different. I don't know enough about their political system to know. But I know they plan ahead.
True. So, just an update from you. Your channel's been doing great. I have seen the uploads come in like I think it's been like 3 or 4 days in a row. You've had a new upload. So, what's the progress there? How are you feeling about the interviewees you're getting, the response, stuff like that? I have a bunch on my watch later list. I have not been able to get to them, but I will always comment.
I, I'm really enjoying the process because it is getting together the types, but they have to be typed by either me or Nina.
Hmm.
Yeah. And um, therefore making very interesting cross comparisons about how types work. So it's good for me from like a NIT perspective.
I think, and that's great. And
But like,
in sorry, go ahead.
and I'm also making friends. So, you know, going down the list with my functions. There we go.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. That's a, you know, you the last video you talked about how your research involves finding the worst people subscribing to the most demented channels.
Yes, it's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to have anybody like that on the show?
I will interview anybody if they are that type. That's the only rule. So I would have like the worst person on because they're that type. Like that's the only criteria. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Okay.
like maybe if they did things that would no, because the things are pre-recorded. So if they did things to get the channel censored, I'll just like cut it out.
Oh
There you
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you come close to that?
No, everyone we've had has really been great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good format. I like it a lot. And I fear that it's going to be harder to find the types as you start to kind of, I guess you would find the low-hanging fruit of the people that are obvious, but then it's like, and then I know the problem is just trying to get them on the show. Like actually getting them to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll run out of people at some point.
And you thought about this, so what's your plan then?
Okay, so maybe we'll type people for free if they do an interview. Like maybe that's on the cards. I'm not sure properly.
I appreciate everyone for watching this first episode in the series with Gabe from Rational Typology.
I tried to live without you. Just can't get